Hello, my name is Barb Kiplinger. I'm the NAACS ELL Curriculum Coordinator. This is the NAACS WIDA Standards Training video. The state of Indiana adopted two sets of standards, College and Career Ready Standards and WIDA ELD Standards. WIDA stands for World Class Instruction, Design, and Assessment. By now you're familiar with the Indiana College and Career Ready State Standards. However, you will be introduced to the WIDA standards through this course. The following questions will be addressed. What are WIDA standards? How are WIDA standards implemented and where will they be most helpful? Who is required to use the WIDA standards and what are the benefits? The Indiana English Language Development Standards, WIDA, meet the requirements of the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001 by providing a framework for standards-based instructional and assessment planning for English language learners so that they may attain English proficiency, develop high levels of academic attainment in English, and meet the same challenging Indiana academic content and student academic achievements standards as all children are expected to meet. According to Indiana's ESSA Flexible Waiver, Indiana will provide professional development and other supports to prepare teachers to teach all students, including English learners. To support EL's transition to college and career ready standards, the IDOE committed in its approved ESSA flexibility request to adopt ELP standards. Indiana adopted the WIDA English Language Development Standards to comply with these requirements. Please watch the following video from the IDOE WIDA Standards 2014.
One thing we discussed is looking at these WIDA standards and the differentiation that will inevitably occur because of this. This is great because it's not just great for our ELLs, it's really going to be great for all of our learners. And it's wonderful because it provides like that differentiation that all students need.
So it's differentiation in a nicely spiral-bound notebook, right? So it gives it to you and you can give it to teachers and it gives them instant ideas of how to take the content and make it comprehensible for our English learners as well as other students as well. Sometimes we get a little dangerous when we say that what's good for EL kids is good for all kids, because then that makes teachers think, oh, well, I already do this, so it's just, I already differentiate for my students, so why are they giving me more stuff? And so what we say is, yes, it is good for all students, but we have to be intentional about what we're doing and the expectations that we have for our English learners so they know exactly what they're supposed to be doing and where they need to go. So it's about being explicit about those expectations with our English learners. But absolutely, are you going to have other students that are English learners that could fall into one of these categories? Absolutely. None of us have a classroom where all students are on grade level. Whew, that'd be nice. And so you're naturally doing this to begin with, but this gives you resources to be able to do that. So we'd like to say the WIDA standards and the framework that come with it, they are a bridge to help ensure that our English learners have access to those content standards, to our Indiana academic standards. Like I said earlier, you don't teach WIDA in isolation, you teach it in conjunction with the content. And we really want to make sure that's something that we drive home. The old ELP standards, people did teach them in isolation, and they looked very much like our language arts standards. And so a lot of teachers didn't see the value in them because they said, I'm already teaching this, so why do I have to worry about these separate set of standards? And so what happened were a lot of teachers just didn't use them. And so the whole point behind WIDA is to make sure that doesn't happen. This is something you use in conjunction with your academic standards to make sure those students have that access. So some people call it a vehicle, some people call it a bridge. The picture of the bridge looks quite nice for our presentation, so that's what we have up here. So just like I said, to reiterate one more time before I turn it back over to Nathan, this is the bridge that is going to help ensure that our English learners have that meaningful access to the content. They have a right to learn that content, and we have an obligation to make sure that we're doing so. And so what WIDA gives you is a plethora of tools, research, and resources to help make that happen.
WIDA English Language Development Standards utilize the Indiana academic standards to teach the social, instructional, and academic language that students need to engage with peers, educators, and the curriculum in schools. The standards allow educators to recognize and support their students' academic language development and achievement, serving as a foundation for curriculum, instruction, and assessment. The WIDA ELD standards allow English learners to communicate effectively for social and instructional purposes and academic content in the areas of language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies. All educators with English learners in their classroom are responsible for utilizing WIDA standards and framework to ensure equitable access for all. We must ensure the ELD standards and Indiana academic standards are used collaboratively to create a continuous pathway to academic success for Indiana's English learners. In other words, all NACS teachers, whether or not they currently have LEP limited English proficient students, must know and be able to apply these standards upon receiving an ELL, an English language learner. English learners must have standards-based instruction so that they may attain English proficiency, develop high levels of academic attainment in English, and meet the same challenging Indiana academic content and student achievement standards as all children are expected to meet. Social and instructional language, language arts, language of mathematics, language of science, and language of social studies. WIDA standards utilize the Indiana academic standards. All teachers are English language teachers and are responsible for utilizing the WIDA standards. Two websites that are helpful is www.doe.in.go and www.wida.us. Remember, every teacher is a language teacher. WIDA replaces the Indiana ELP standards. All teachers must be able to apply and implement these standards the moment they have an ELL student enrolled in their classroom.